I start telling people about hell, I might just scare them off. Where are you going to scare them off to? Hell number 2? Or are you just going to sit there and let them burn?
This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn. Welcome to our program. Don't forget you can find us on dontletthemburn.com. You can find us on Facebook, other social media platforms. You can go to our YouTube channel, share this video if you desire. You could also like and subscribe and share. This is Reign of the Tech, episode 4. Don't forget that we're also working on a documentary called The Alien Deception, Entertainment Frontlines. But tonight, we're going to talk about a different documentary, and it's from Billy Crone. It's called Hybrids, Super Soldiers, and the Coming Genetic Apocalypse. And here's the book. You want to pick up the book, but I highly recommend you purchasing the documentary. It's 31 hours. 31 hours of factual evidence about the hybridization of humanity, the super soldiers, and of course, the genetic apocalypse. You've probably heard our song, Genetic Apocalypse. If you haven't, we'll play it at the end of this video. So, what you're about to witness is my conversation with Billy Crone. Check it out. Pastor Billy, thanks for joining us.
Chris, hey man, thanks always for having me on. So, looking forward to it.
Hey, this world, as you know, is getting crazy, and you cover a lot of subjects. And in this 31-hour documentary, you've touched on things that a lot of people just can't understand that it's really happening right now, not 50 years from now. Yeah. So I guess you can go into how does all the concept of the hybrid start biblically?
Well, it starts in the book of beginnings, i.e. Genesis, the book, first book of the Bible. Genesis, of course, means the beginning or beginnings, and that's the creation account of how God, made the heavens and the earth, and mankind, the animals, and things of that nature. Initially, he also, in the creation account, made angels. Unfortunately, the Bible tells us that 1/3 of the angels rebelled with Satan. You see Satan's rebellion in Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. And unfortunately, his problem was pride. He wanted to be God. The scripture says, he wanted to be God. He wanted to be like God. He wanted to be worshipped as God. He was going to rise up to be God. And of course, that position is not available. So obviously, he got kicked out. And the scripture informs us that 1/3 of the angels went with him. 2/3 are still good, what we call holy angels. But 1/3 went with Satan, and that's basically fallen angels or demons, as we would say scripturally today. But in the Genesis account, everything started off good. God created man and Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and it was a paradise. It was supposed to be great, but Satan, the original fallen angel, shows up, and he basically messes everything up. And he seduces Eve to do what God said not to do, and then she turned and gave to the apple to Adam, and of course then he rebelled. So basically from that point forward, mankind inherited a sin nature. The sin nature is that which rebels against God. We want to do same problem that Satan had, I problem. It's what I want to do. I want to ascend the Mount of Assembly, the scripture says, about his fall. And so that's where that I nature comes from. Like, no, I want to do it this way. No, I think it's better this way. No, God says that. No, I will do it my way. That's where that comes from, and it's passed down. That was bad enough. It caused the fall. But that's Genesis 1 and 2 talks about the creation account. Genesis 3 is the fall of man. Then you get into the beginning of that society. After the fall is man begins to permeate the earth. And by the time you get to Genesis 6, that's where you get into this wild account. And I don't say story because it's not a story. Yeah. When you say story, people think of, it's like something you made up, a science fiction book or something. No, this is a biblical account. These were real people, and these are events that were recorded for us, actual accounts that really happened. And it says there in Genesis 6 that the fallen angels, called in the text they're sons of God, which is used of a text of angels, but it says they cohabited, they mingled with the daughters of men. And so you have this weird thing going on there with these, and of course we say fallen angels because obviously holy angels of God aren't going to do that. But so the fallen angels, sons of God, and it created an offspring. And the offspring is what's called the Nephilim in the Hebrew there, meaning giants or men of renown, if you will, and things of that nature. And so there was and that's the word that I chose, hybridization, because that's what it was, of humanity in the Genesis account. And where fallen angels cohabitated, mingled with the daughters of men, and created this hybrid called Nephilim, these giant, freakish creatures. That's Genesis 6. Now, I believe that not only is what the text says, a lot of people will balk at that because they go, oh, that's just crazy. That's not what I mean. Yeah. And they dance around that issue and they want to say, oh, that really means the line of Seth. But it says sons of God. You're talking about angels. As weird, freaky as it is, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And plus, sons of Seth were just, okay, that's humans. You get humans and humans today, and they just produce humans. So this wasn't a human-to-human cohabitation thing, because what came out was not human. It was a Nephilim. It was some sort of a hybrid, right? So, but anyway, that's a whole other issue of that baloney. So it created this hybrid issue, and to me, that explains the severity of the flood. And the Genesis 6 account says that man was so wicked that even his thoughts were continually wicked. And the account says it grieved the heart of God. And he says, that's it. I've had it, basically. And I'm going to send a flood. I'm going to wipe mankind out, except for Noah, who was a righteous man. And him and his family, so 8 people, were the only ones that survived the flood, and the animals that God brought in pairs to the ark. Okay, and basically God was hitting a restart on humanity. And then after the flood, of course, when the waters subsided, Adam was in that boat actually for over a year, if you do the math there. And when the waters subsided, and they began to repopulate the planet. So basically God's hitting a restart button on the whole planet. And you're going like, wow, it's pretty severe. Well, I think it wasn't just because it mentions there that man was continually wicked, his thoughts were, that there it is. But there was another wickedness that people just want to gloss over. And that's what this is about. It wasn't just that man was continually wicked, but it was this wicked hybridization of humanity going on, creating these wild creatures called Nephilim. And again, that explains to me the severity of the flood. Yeah. If Satan would have had a heyday, and if God didn't put a stop to it with the flood as the judgment, and then saving back Noah and his family, the animals, would there have been any true humans left? Right. And so God hits a restart button on humanity to stop it, as well as judge it. So I said all that to get to this. It not only explains the severity of the flood, and that's what was going on, and that makes sense. Why did God go to such global extremes, right? Well, that makes sense now. But fast forward to our day, right? The flood was about 4,500 years ago, but fast forward to our day, Jesus makes a statement about his second coming. And he said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. And the coming he's talking about is not the rapture, which happens prior to the 7-year tribulation. He's talking about the second coming of Jesus, which is 2 totally different events. And that happens at the end of the 7-year tribulation. So that's the coming he's talking about. So he said, how do you know you're getting close to the second coming, his return, right? You're going to see a repeat of the Noah's Day. And that's what he said, as it was in the days of Noah. So again, the next logical question is, well, what was going on in Noah's day? And so you go back to the Genesis account, and the most that we have is there in Genesis 6 that tells us about Noah's society and the world at that time. Yeah. And so, okay, if Jesus' statement were to be taken literally, which it should be, then the way that we know that we're getting close to the second coming of Jesus Christ is 2 things have to happen on the planet. There has to be what I call a general wickedness, where man was just wicked all the time, thinking wicked thoughts and doing all that stuff, because that's mentioned there. Yeah. And Chris, you think about our society today, is that not already here? Right. I mean, the wickedness, even, and we think, oh, that's just people that are, serial killers and like Hitler. Wickedness is wickedness. God defines what wickedness is. Wickedness is something as simple as idolatry. Even living just getting out of bed every day, and it's all about me, myself, and I, the unholy Trinity self. That's idolatry. Yeah. That's violating the second of the 10 Commandments. not only worship only God, but you shall no idols. You turn yourself into an idol. People worship money. And I'm not talking about getting involved in even the sexual immorality and all the horrible things that goes on and the lust and whatever that's permeating our society and the media and all that stuff. It's like, where do you go? And it's just you're surrounded by wickedness.
Yeah.
So that certainly, I think, is easily demonstrable that's repeating again.
Yeah.
But again, this is what this documentary is. Is that the only wickedness talked about there? No. It's talking about two wickedness, general wickedness, but this hybridization wickedness. So horrible that if God didn't hit the restart button, there would be no humans left.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I'm telling you, this is happening too. And this is what I think people have been missing. They'll talk about that general wickedness, but they don't seem to want to touch the other one with a 10-foot pole. And it's not only, I think, the other missing piece to the puzzle, showing us that the second coming of Christ is getting close, but it's happening on a scale, on a global scale, that people, if they really knew what was going on, it would literally freak them out, rightly so.
Yeah.
And that's why it ended up being, I didn't think it was going to be that long, 31 hours. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It was too big for one book. We had to split it up into 2 books. It was just too much. And I didn't hit everything.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I left stuff out, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And but we wanted to deal with it in great detail to show people that, yes, even as crazy as it sounds, the repeat of a hybridization of humanity, just like Genesis 6, is happening too, just in time for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And so that's basically what we do. We tear it down, look it apart, and show how it's happening on a grand scale. Every plant you could think of, basically, every animal you could think of, basically, our whole food supply, basically, humans, soldiers. We take a look at the movement, who's behind pushing all this stuff. And Chris, and I say this throughout the documentary, it's not coming. It's already here.
Yeah.
And it's being put into play, and much of the media is conditioning people to think it's a good thing to make hybrids basically out of all God's creation, which I can't say thus saith the Lord, but it got my mind thinking about the days of Noah, right? Who was it that was advertising that hybrids back then was good? And that this is the latest scientific breakthrough. This is what we need to help humanity and rescue, and all the stuff that we're hearing today with the modern hybridization. Again, I can't say thus saith the Lord, but it makes you wonder if that wasn't going on as well, to dupe people into going along with this wickedness that's a sign that we're in the last days.
Yeah, and you see this all over the comic books, the sci-fi movies, and everything else in between, and different aspects. Whether it's a little bit or a lot, you'll see it. If you've watched entertainment enough, you've seen it all through your whole life. Yeah. And now we're being bombarded, not only with the hybridization issue, bombarded with the whole witchcraft, and it blends together. It comes right out of that system anyway. But Hollywood has just been this propaganda machine, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. And, we've had recent movies like Bloodshot, with the nanotechnology and all that stuff. Can you comment on some of the stuff going on in Hollywood?
Hollywood, I'm convinced. We've been convinced that it's just entertainment. It's not. You even study history, media, whether it be films, whether it be print, things of that nature, has always historically been a tool to propagandize people, to influence their thinking, their belief system, even their buying habits and things of that nature. People say, oh, the media doesn't influence me. Really? Then those people who spend billions, not millions, billions of dollars every year on commercials are some of the dumbest people on the planet, or they got so much money that they're just burned as fast as they can, to the tune of billions every year, annually. Or they know that media has a way of influencing your behavior, your thought life, your decisions, your philosophy, your makeup. And it isn't just commercials. It's the media in movies or comic books, video games, same thing. Just visual content. And again, back in the day, this is what really gets me. You'd watch something as simple as a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something. Typically, there wasn't an agenda to it. It was just slapstick, whatever, and whatever. You look at anything today, there is a message behind it. You can't watch a cartoon without getting indoctrinated into the occult or to environmentalism or even media that makes Christians look dumb and leads you into anything and everything but the biblical accounts. They downplay God, Christianity, Jesus, and the Bible. They make Christians look like a bunch of dangerous goobers and all that stuff. That's being done on purpose. Yeah. In fact, in other studies, I have quoted producers who basically say that their job in the media is to say, blank you, God, in the Old Testament you wrote in on. Right. That's direct quotes. So there is an agenda. But even back as far as even just with Hitler, how he was able to change the mindset of the German people, a lot of it was propaganda. Yeah. And so we're fooling ourselves if we think, on a multitude of levels, we're fooling ourselves if we don't think that media has an influence. And again, media is ratcheting up this last day society to think that making hybrids and genetic modifications that will create hybrids of, again, not just people, Chris, but plants, animals, you name it, is the best thing since sliced bread. This is going to solve all of our problems. It's going to get rid of all the diseases. And by the way, it's the ultimate self-improvement thing, right? Wouldn't you? You do upgrades to your computer or to upgrades to your home with entertainment and things of that nature. And why not upgrade your body? Yeah. Right. And you see movements with people that they already do all kinds of body modification and things of that nature. Why not do it genetically? Right? Maybe you don't like your eyes and you can change them to the color you want them to. And then it spills on not only to the individual, it spills down to your progeny. Okay, so maybe I don't only want to change me, but why not just customize my kid? I want one that's blonde hair, blue eyes. I want one that's going to be 6'2". I want one that with a higher intelligence. And as crazy as all that is, Chris, that's already being pitched right now. But you're creating hybrids. You're altering humanity. And these changes are irreversible to the point where people, even in the community, and we quote them all over the place, and they nervously will say, like, how far can we do this? And there's not even any real humans left. They're not really people anymore. Yeah. And that's a legitimate concern. But Hollywood, you mentioned Bloodshot. Yeah. Bloodshot is what? We have a whole section on there with not just humans being modified, but super soldiers, right? And militaries around the world, including the U.S., it's already being done. It's not coming. Yeah. They're basically, and Hollywood's preparing the way to people think, wow, that would be cool. But Bloodshot, basically this guy, soldier, who they, should have been dead. They basically brought him back by injecting these nanoparticles into him that basically gave him all these superpowers and ability to take any kind of a shot. Yeah. And his body with the nano would repair him, just bring him right back. Yeah. As crazy as that sounds, that's technology that they're already actually working on. Yeah. In fact, the nanotechnology, and we start the documentary off with this, the nanotechnology, other people not only want to use it for soldiers to create super soldiers like Bloodshot, which again, Hollywood's preparing people to think that's a great thing. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to have that upgrade, right? But they also are pitching this false utopia where with nanobot technology and genetic modifications, we could increase our intelligence to have an IQ of 1,000. Yeah. They call it brain boosting. And this is legitimate stuff that they're talking about. There's a movie about that. Limitless, I think it was called. Yeah. And the guy took a pill and he became super smart. That stuff, Chris, they're actually working on, as you know. It's crazy.
And, not to cut you, but there's a new movie that just came out with on Netflix. Something Powers, and you take a pill and you get a superpower for 5 minutes, and you can overdose, but you could overdose on the first pill. Yeah. And they have to write the premise however they write it, but it's same predictive programming. Right.
Yeah, that we can get it down to a pill form or just a simple shot, and you can alter your body. And again, everybody's into body modification. I mean, I'm not. I don't. But our world, everybody doesn't think twice about doing something to your body to improve it. But again, you think of our selfish, self-centered culture. It's all about me, myself, and I. It's all about convenience, right? I don't want to have to work for nothing. Just give me a pill, pop a pill, shoot me in the arm, okay, whatever. But what they're pitching on is not just superhuman intelligence, but they believe that, and this is the counterfeit. Basically, everything that the Bible offers through Jesus Christ is a gift. Yeah. they counterfeit it with technology, which will never work. And but the Bible says that when we get saved and if we die and go to heaven, or experience the rapture as Christians, go to heaven, you're going to have a perfect body. Right? But that's what these people say. No, you don't need Jesus. We'll genetically alter you, have a perfect brain, a super intelligence, or a perfect body that can take all kinds of hit with superhuman strength.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't you watch Captain America? Right? Boy, he came out strong.
Yeah.
And they're working on those kind of modifications for humans. And then also the Bible would say that, well, you come to Jesus and you're given eternal life to live forever. Right? Well, they say, oh no, we don't need Jesus for any of that stuff. We'll just, your body starts to wear out. We'll either repair it, fix it, or transfer you into another body and just keep you going. You don't need God for any of that stuff. They say that, if this technology is going to get rid of all pain and suffering and you won't have to have diseases or all that baloney that we got to deal with death. You want to deal with death? Well, that's a counterfeit, because God says that when you get saved, we're headed to a place, the new heavens and the new earth, where there's going to be no more crying, no more death, no more mourning, no more pain, right?
Yeah.
And it's real, and that is a gift from God.
Right.
See, all that basically God does, they've twisted it, contorted it, and they're offering a counterfeit that will not work and that will not last. Yeah. But isn't that just like the enemy? That's what he did, Genesis 3, duped mankind, and then led to the fallen angel, Genesis 6, that created the first judgment from God, and shocker, just in time for the next coming judgment from God. What's he doing? He's out there once again telling humanity, oh no, what was the lie in the Garden of Eden? I know God said this, but listen to me, Satan says. You do it my way, and you will be like God. And that's what these people are doing. But again, Hollywood is out there preparing people for that reality. And I'll just add this. I keep saying, and it'll never work. And people say, well, how do you know it's never work? Maybe it will work. Maybe it wouldn't. This is one thing, and we quote the geneticists, and they readily admit this. The danger with this technology is it'll modify you all right. It'll modify plants, animals, and people. But the results are irreversible.
Right.
And they're not just irreversible, but when you basically slice and dice the DNA, and when you take a piece out, and granted you put a piece in, maybe you take a piece of DNA out that was faulty, that was causing HIV, which is one example that they're actually doing. And then you splice it back together, or you put something else in. Okay, first of all, you can't undo it. Hope you got it right, because it's irreversible. But what they're already finding is, okay, so maybe that means that this person will not get HIV. But what they're learning is the DNA code that God designed in humans is so complex that they really don't know what they're doing, and they admit this.
Right.
It's not as simplistic as taking out a single strand of DNA that only does one thing, because what they're learning is that DNA strand does more than one thing. Granted, maybe it did one negative thing because of the fall of man, and did create HIV scenario. But that same strand that you just took out also did 13 other positive things that you need.
Right.
But guess what? You took the whole thing out. You thought it just did one, but it actually did 14. One was negative, but you just got rid of 13 positive things. And guess what? You can't undo it. And so that's what they're admitting. They're going, we're basically, if you can imagine, what would happen if you took a baby and you put him in the driver's seat of the space shuttle with all its complex buttons and controls? What would happen?
Disaster.
Bingo. And that's what these guys that are actually doing this, geneticists, are admitting, Chris, that's what we're basically doing. We don't know what we're really doing. We're just kind of like,
it's crazy.
Hope it works.
And what did the movie show you?
It always works.
Scientists, yeah. Or you might get a person that's trying to actually teach something good. And they'll bring the same scenario, but they say, look, it all went wrong, and now we have this monstrosity that's upon us, and we can't do anything about it. That's what we might get in the 7-year tribulation.
Who knows what kind of concoctions are going to go? And again, Chris, here's the wild thing, and you got to remember, and you know the general rule. My general rule used to be
Yeah.
anything that they'll release to the public, technology, military, stuff like this, stuff that we're talking about, medical technology, genetic technology, things of that nature, biotechnology, anything they'll release to the public, my rule used to be we're 20 years behind.
Yeah.
But after we did that documentary, Attack of the Drones, Skynet is coming, and talking to the military guys, my rule changed. What they shared, which was still declassified, I didn't get to hear obviously the unclassified. The declassified information, what they were sharing with the technology, how long it's really been around on that documentary, my rule went from 20 to, Chris, we're really 30 to 40 to 50 years behind the technology.
Yeah.
And so I say that to get to this. What we're talking about with this genetic modification, they can modify, they can do this and make it super strong and increase this and do that and splice this and dice this and do that, and it's going to have effects and all this nature. That's what they're admitting right now they're doing in public.
Yeah.
Chris, what have they really been doing that we don't know? And I say that because I believe you're right. Fast forward into the 7-year tribulation when there's not going to be any restraint. And what's going to come out on the planet at that point?
Yeah.
Or what you've already created but will be unleashed in the 7-year tribulation.
Yeah.
Maybe as part of military technology, including freakish-looking soldiers. Or, again, what we also document in this, the hybridization of mankind, it also includes not just modifying mankind, but combining mankind with animals, chimeras.
Yeah.
So, and again, they admit this, and it's already going on, not coming. So imagine they've been really doing this for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So what have you already created that we don't know about?
Right.
And then you might use it for who knows what kind of purpose. You're getting into the Island of Dr. Moreau kind of mentality. And again, that's another movie, giving you propaganda, thinking that's a great thing. But maybe they want to use it for a military perspective or whatever. But you get in the 7-year tribulation when it says the restraints removed. And what is going to be crawling around on that planet at that time?
And the thing is that there are a lot of skeptics. Even though if they watch a documentary, they'll see the evidence. Yeah. But they'll say, "Well, man's makeup, genetics is too complex to ever mix with an animal, and whatever." But they're doing it.
Yeah.
So, I know that a lot of this is coming from the spiritual realm, of course, and we'll never figure out who exactly is actually in contact with whatever. But mankind has this altruistic idea that we're going to make everything better.
Yeah.
But my opinion is we're not headed towards a utopia. We're headed towards a dystopia, and that's what the Bible says. For you watching, and you're very skeptical on what we're talking about, this is why the production is here. It's 31 hours, and it's documented over and over, and not just from Pastor Billy's mind. In fact, I was surprised you talk less than you've ever talked in a documentary. He shows a lot of videos. It's from their mouths, So I encourage you to get this documentary and share it with people, because I guarantee you'll be blown away. One of the things you went back to the Hitler scenario and the eugenics at the time. And one of the quotes, I can't remember who the quote is from, but it was, what's the difference between eugenics and genetics? And it's absolute zero difference.
Yeah. Well, and they give themselves a new name, because still to this day, eugenics, people think, oh, Hitler and what he did with the Jewish people and horrible, and rightly so. And I was amazed at their terminology. Yeah, because it is just old-fashioned eugenics. That's all it is. Yeah, that movement never stopped. Yeah, most people don't realize that. But I was blown away at. I was sitting there going, like, really? That's the best you can come up with? You'd think you'd try to hide it better than that. Right. You know what they call themselves? This genetic movement to modify all of humanity and creatures and plants and stuff is a good thing. Newgenics. Eugenics, newgenics. It's the same thing. It's like, come on, at least you'd hide it better than that. But it was like, you got to be kidding. Now, speaking of which, the one of the the ladies who invented CRISPR, which is basically the technology that allows them to slice and dice the DNA, like a film strip, basically. Professor Doudna is her name, Jennifer Doudna. And speaking of eugenics, Hitler, we got her on tape. She shares an interview, and she kind of like, a strange thing happened. We invented this, and I had a dream. And she says this on tape. You can see it with your own eyes. She said, I had a dream that Hitler came, and he visited me.
Oh, yeah.
And he was all excited. Yeah. And I woke up going like, oh, what did I just do? What did you just do? Yeah. You basically took Hitler's sickening eugenics program and you put it on modern technology steroids. Yeah. And you've advanced it beyond even his wildest dreams. Yeah. To create what he called the super race. They don't call it that anymore. It's not the Hitler eugenics movement to create the Aryan society. It's the transhumanist movement to create a modern utopia. Yeah. But it's just a glamorized eugenics, Hitler, and that's what it is. Yeah. But yeah, it's been going on for a long time. It's never stopped. Right. I will share this. One thing that it was a learning curve for me too, going down that rabbit trail, even with eugenics. Hitler, rightly so, when you talk about eugenics and the horrible experiments that he was doing on people, certainly the Jewish people, in trying to create his super race, you think of eugenics, you think of Hitler. Yeah. Hitler, and this is what blew me away, actually got his ideas for the eugenics movement from the United States of America. The United States of America was way further along eugenics before Hitler ever did. It went over to Germany, already been established here in the United States, and that's where he got it from. Yeah. So you can't really just blame it on Hitler. Even our own country's involved in it, including the U.S. Supreme Court. Boy, they don't talk about this in the media anymore. The U.S. Supreme Court, back in the day, said it was perfectly fine, the U.S. Supreme Court, to forcibly sterilize people in the United States of America, Chris. So, but after what Hitler did, then it kind of died down. People kind of freaked out. Yeah. And you had the Nuremberg trials, which, by the way, in the Nuremberg trials, we demonstrate this. One of the lawyers for the Nazis actually said, how could you hold us guilty for an international crime of eugenics and what we did to the Jewish people when your own country, the United States of America, the U.S. Supreme Court said it was perfectly fine? Right. That was his defense. Yeah. Right? And so we got that on tape, too. It's like, phew, yeah. But it's been going. But anyway, so the Nuremberg trials, then you go into 50s and 60s. By the time the late 60s and 70s, then the modern eugenics called newgenics began to take off because the technology had advanced. It never stopped. Yeah. Had advanced to where now they can manipulate down to the genetic level. Yeah. And Chris, it has gone nuts. Yeah. 2012, I believe, was the year that they invented the CRISPR, which really allowed them to get precise, was the big breakthrough with that. They were already doing it, but it was more random results. And now with CRISPR, they can get more exacting. Yeah. Because they could literally slice and dice the DNA. But again, they call it exacting. They pitch it as exacting. And you could take an exact strand out. But what's the danger again? You thought it did one thing, but it really did 14. Right. 1 was bad. Yeah. 13 was good. Oops. Can't put it back in. Yeah. Irreversible changes. But yet they continue to go headlong in. So dangerous, just like putting a kid in charge of the space shuttle.
And like you mentioned, you have all these, these either government funded or whatever institutions, but with CRISPR, you have people buying this kit. Now, I don't encourage you to do this. They're buying the kits, which cost, $1,000 or something like that, somewhere around there, and modifying themselves in their own garage. Yep. Okay? They don't know what's going to happen to them, but they're doing it. So it's already begun in our society. We don't know how many people, but just one is too many. And this is leading to our next topic, which you kind of touched already, but we'll focus laser sharp on this one, transhumanism. Yep. And for those that don't know, transhumanism is basically man's attempt to become a god. The same lie from the Garden of Eden. And they'll use genetics to do this, and they want to accomplish this stuff by 2030, 2045. That's the timeline, 2025 even, depending on who you're listening to. And they have their website, 2045.com. You can go see the evidence for yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, basically transhuman, they want to basically transcend humanity to the next level. They believe, of course, in the live evolution, that man has slowly evolved over millions and millions of years and all that stuff. Yeah. And if people want to get the truth about the lie of evolution, then we've got the 42-hour study on the witness of creation that we went through. And that exposes that thing for as bankrupt as it is. It's a lie. But they believe in that. And so, but they're saying like, but that just takes too long. Mm-hmm. So look at how we've advanced with our technology. How about we speed up the process of human evolution with technology, and we won't wait for it to randomly occur, which is all bogus, but we won't wait for it to we'll do it ourselves with technology. Mm-hmm. We'll speed up man's evolutionary process. We'll make them smarter. We'll make them faster. We'll make them bigger. If we see something we don't like, we'll get rid of it. We'll replace it with what we want with modern technology. So that's basically what that movement is all about. We document that people say, well, I've never heard of that before. Well, whether you've never heard of it before, it's all over the planet. Yeah. And a lot of it, we demonstrate it's already in politics. People don't even know that we've had a person, a transhumanist, run for the president of the United States of America. Yeah. People don't realize that. But it's not just America. It's around the world. There's scores and scores of corporations and organizations that promote transhumanism all over the world. Yeah. A lot of them are involved in, they're either millionaires or billionaires or tech moguls who, again, don't need Jesus, don't need God. Mm-hmm. And this is their way to achieve what they believe is immortality. There's super longevity, super intelligence, and super health. They call them the three supers. Yeah. And that's what they want to try to achieve. But again, all that, as we talked earlier, is a counterfeit of what you could have legitimately through Jesus Christ if you just get saved through him. And with none of the negative side effects, might I add. So, but that's what they're pushing for. And, we document not only where it came from, the history of it, the meaning of it, how's it being permeated and pushed across our planet. But these guys have the bucks, Chris, to push it. I mean, we're talking billionaires. And so they got the money to make sure that the science continues to go forward and the experimentation. A danger with a lot of this stuff is these guys aren't just promoting it, but there is no, this is what was really creepy. I didn't know this until we went down the rabbit hole. Yeah. There's no regulation on this, Chris. Yeah. There's no regulation, and I'm talking not just in the U.S., I'm talking around the world, especially in countries like China, South Korea, and others that are a communist background who straight out of the gates don't even believe in God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With America, we're still going headlong at a crazy breakneck speed. But the problem is, one thing is, at least in America, we still have just a little bit of the Judeo-Christian mindset that gives you kind of a conscious, like, hey, we're kind of playing God here. Should we really keep doing this? Right. I mean, we've pushed the envelope in America super deep anyway. Mm-hmm. But in these countries, in China, South Korea, there's no restraint. They don't believe in God. Mm-hmm. In fact, they laugh at the idea of like, God, what are you talking about? We'll do whatever we want to do. There is no God. And so they're taking these experiments to an extreme. And we interviewed a geneticist on the documentaries, and for nearly 2 hours. And she admitted that there is not only no regulation, she said it's growing so fast exponentially that there will never be regulation because it's going so fast around the planet that in order to regulate this technology, that you have to have a consensus. She says, but it's out of the box for so long and growing so fast, you can't corral everybody together to get a consensus. Right. It's impossible now. It's too late, she said. Yeah. So which means it's going to continue without regulation, with no conscience, and they believe that they're their own gods. Again, the lie of Genesis 3, they're going to do whatever they want to do. We also document some of their methodology, which was really crazy and freaky, to be honest with you. Yeah. And it's not just they're promoting it, they're around the world, they're in politics, they're in government. Mormons are big on this because they believe that they can become gods and maybe they can do it through this technology, and that's a whole other aspect. But we look at their methods. Like, well, okay, so how are you going to achieve your three supers? You're going to have super longevity, super intelligence, and super health. Well, one of the things they're working on, as crazy as this sounds, is a full head transplant. So when you basically are getting ready to die as a transhumanist, you don't need God, you don't need Jesus. Yeah. We'll just sever your head right here at the base, where the spine area is, and we're just going to pop you onto a new body. Now that sounds, oh, come on, that sounds like Frankenstein. They wouldn't do it. Already been being done. They've been doing it for decades on animals, as crazy and as freaky as that is. And it's freaky, Chris. And they're ready for human trials to literally do a head transplant. I mean, why not? They do heart transplants. They do lung transplants. Why not a head? Yeah. And so they're really working on that. Yeah. The other one that they're doing, and they'll achieve their three supers. So, when their body starts to die, they'll just pop you on a new body. When that body starts to die after 60, 70 years, we'll pop you on a new body. And that's their version of immortality, right? Yeah. Well, another one they're working on is they want to create mankind into like a cyborg. So maybe they'll take your brain, your body, whatever, and they'll pop it into more kind of like a robot or kind of a half robot, half human kind of scenario. They also are working on what I call the Johnny Depp scenario. Again, Hollywood, the movie Transcendence. Yeah. And what'd he do? Supposedly, he took his brain's contents, uploaded it into a computer, and then later that became an avatar, and then could access all the information, super intelligence in the world via the internet and whatever. Right. But eventually came back into a body to walk around on the planet. But surely that's a movie, right? As nuts as it sounds, these guys believe that they're going to be able very shortly to download the contents of the human brain into a format that they could re-upload into a computer and basically, in essence, live forever. Right. And then later put you into a cyborg scenario or into an avatar computer scenario, but that's how they get their longevity. And then they say if they're a computer scenario, like you become your own avatar, right? Then in a computer existence, you can create whatever reality you want. Right, and live forever. But it's even funner in a computer because you can make it up whatever you want. There's on Netflix. Yeah, they just came out with speaking of propaganda, a new series promoting that. It's called, was it Upload? Upload, download. One of those. Yeah. And what are they promoting? As crazy as this sounds, they're getting people warmed up to this crazy idea that you don't need Jesus, you don't need God. Just download or upload the contents of your brain, and you don't just live in a computer like Johnny Depp, the Transcendence movie. You could create your own reality. Create your own reality. And what kind of virtual thing do you want? And that becomes, listen, it's a counterfeit. What does it become? Their version of a heaven. Right. They create heaven however they want to be. It's a counterfeit. You're seeing a constant counterfeit. And by the way, just to mention, where do counterfeits come from? What's counterfeit? It's a fancy word for what? Lying. Yeah. Liar. You liar. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So what's the Bible say? John chapter 8. Satan is not just a murderer, and been one from the beginning. The beginning what? Creation. Right. Genesis 3. But he's a liar, and he's the father of all lies. So where do these lies come from, including the lie of transhumanism? Yeah. That you don't need God or Jesus. We'll give you false immortality, a false heaven, a false perfect body, and all that. That's coming from Satan. So again, just in time for the second coming of Jesus Christ, he's doing it again on the planet through science and technology. But again, on and on it goes. They have their methodologies, and they're not just ideas. They're putting them into play, as freaky as that sounds. It's sad because, again, everything that they want, and who wouldn't want, Chris? Think about it. It's not a innately bad desire to want to live forever. Right. It's not an innately bad desire to have a body that's functioning great. I don't think that's bad. Right. Right. But the way they're going about it cannot and will never deliver. It's a lie. But the sad irony is, Chris, people really could have that. Right. Exactly. You can have that. And that's how we end it. Yeah. It's like, listen, This is not just happening, but don't buy into this. And the sad, twisted irony is you can have that through Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
As a gift. You don't work for it. You don't need technology. You don't need to be crammed full of nanobots. You don't need to chop your head off and put it endlessly onto another body and go through it all. Yeah. You don't need to download your brain into a computer. Yeah. Just ask Jesus Christ to forgive you of all your sins and trust your life in his work on the cross. Confess him as Lord. Believe in your heart that God raised from the grave. The Bible says you'll be saved. You get all that stuff.
Yeah.
For real.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, because God doesn't lie.
Yeah. It's too far out for some people.
Yeah.
And of course, hearts are closed, cold, eyes are, got scales over it or whatever.
Yeah.
Satan is blinding the mind of humanity. And it takes, breaking through encounter with Jesus Christ, basically. And all this stuff, we're starting to see a rise. And some of these subjects might be outside of your documentary, but it still applies. The Elon Musk thing, where you want to put microscopic hairs into your skull and connect you to computers. This is the whole, what do they call those people? Technocrats, where they want you to merge with computers. And they bump heads, but it's all the same plan. Where they merge you with AI. Mm-hmm. And so some on one side, they're saying, AI is a good thing and, we need to, adapt to it and everything. But on the other side, you have a warning against AI. But these same people that are warning want you to merge with AI. So we come back full circle.
Well, exactly. And the transhumanists, they want AI. Mm-hmm. Because they believe that they're going to merge their brain with AI, and that's how they're going to get super duper intelligence. Yeah. 1,000 IQ, child's play. But if you can merge your brain with an AI brain, mm-hmm. superhuman brain, there you go, Johnny Depp. That's your scenario. Yeah. Now, as crazy as that sounds, we document that as well. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk's invention, it's called Neuralink, mm-hmm. who he says he wants it to be as simple of a procedure, kind of an outpatient procedure to link your brain to a computer as going to a LASIK eye procedure. You just go in, and you got great vision. You can walk right back out. And that is really coming along. Now, what they want is they're pitching it as, well, this will give you super abilities, especially for those people who were paralyzed,
right?
Paraplegic or quadriplegics, mm-hmm. and you can't use your limbs. Well, if you do the Neuralink thing, you'll regain usage of your limbs because they'll make the connections back in your brain like it's supposed to work. Yeah. And that is true. And that would be kind of fantastic. But I stumbled across this, and you can see the tape, man. But Elon Musk admitted in a different interview why he really came up with Neuralink. Uh-huh. And it wasn't just to help people regain usage of their limbs back and things of that nature. He said he is so concerned about AI, which is not coming, it's already here in a multitude of forms. Right. And everybody's racing to get the biggest, baddest one to see who get the top of the mountain so that their version of AI controls all the other AIs. Yeah. That's going on. That's a whole nother story going on in the backdrop. But he said he's so concerned about AI taking over the planet that he developed Neuralink to hurry up and connect the human brain to an AI brain. So this is his words on tape, so that we can control AI before it controls us.
Right.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you're right. So at the same time, these people warn us about it, they're still involved in it. Yeah. And then there's the whole element of transhumanism that says, no, we're going to do this regardless. And they go in with, again, like a baby sitting, driving the space shuttle, going, surely it's going to work. It's, nope, yep.
And then we have another situation that everyone's worried about right now. The subject that all of us are dealing with right now, COVID-19. Uh-huh. And the person that's developing a vaccine. Now, there are multiple vaccines on the horizon, but the big one everyone's talking about is Bill Gates' one that has some nanotechnology involved in it. Now, I have my own opinions about it, but a lot of Christians are saying this is the mark of the beast. People I respect, too. The problem is the beast is not here. Neither of them. And you can give me your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say it's helping people to condition them to ultimately receive the actual mark of the beast, maybe you can go there.
Right.
That's as far as I would push it. But to say that it is the mark of the beast, I would disagree for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the mark of the beast does not get implemented until in the 7-year tribulation, which we're not in, obviously.
Right.
Because we're still here on the planet, number one. And then, plus, technically, doesn't happen until midway. Most prophecy teachers would say in the 7-year tribulation. So, how could this be the mark of the beast if we're not even in the 7-year tribulation, let alone the halfway point?
Right.
Again, could it be conditioning people to have that mindset to take something into your body, some mark into your body that, as Revelation 13 says, ultimately controls the buying and selling? I could see a conditioning thing, but to say it's the actual mark,
it's a stretch. I mean, there's so many, and because you've been covering RFID and other technologies for years, like 2 decades now, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many technologies out there. I mean, trust me, there are many technologies that you can assume is the mark of the beast, and all of them basically come back to the same point. It's going to be in your body or on your body in some form. And so, the Antichrist and the false prophet is the one that actually initiates it. They're going to use this system. They're going to take the system over no matter what the technology is. And, it might morph into something that we can't even imagine,
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's why I've said I can't say thus saith the Lord, but maybe that term there, this mark that either goes in the right hand or the forehead specifically, Revelation 13 says, it, of course, controls the buying and selling on a global scale. So that's what it says.
Yeah.
But maybe it's what I call a loaded term. I'm not going to say thus saith the Lord, but maybe it's a loaded term. So maybe that same marking system, controls the buying and selling, but what if it did even more than that? What if it was also a tracking device at the same time? Because it says there when the order goes out, he knows who obeys and who doesn't, and whoever doesn't obey, they kill you.
Right.
There's been talk for Chris, I kid you not, I heard about this way back when I was pastor in New York, way back in the mid-2000s. And but they were talking about not only subdermal implants, but ones that they call them killer chips. And to where they could, these chips would not only be used for financial transactions and storing and receiving information, but also tracking devices, but they could push a button and that chip will release a certain amount of cyanide and kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's they were talking about that. Man, how long ago was that? A long time, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, could be something like that. Could also be maybe these marking devices will also be pitched as a human upgrade. Yes, it does buying and selling, but maybe it also you worship the beast. Yeah, you buy and sell, but you get superhuman strength, or it'll be like popping that pill, man. You'll have. Didn't you watch that movie Limitless? You'll have super intelligence, and you'll be protected from diseases. And again, if you're the mark of the beast, you're talking about the halfway point. Well, what's happened since the halfway point? You've already blown through all the seal judgments. You've had the global war and the global famine and pestilence. 1/4 of the earth has already been annihilated. That's nearly 2 billion people at today's population.
Right.
And you got this global earthquake that takes place, and every mountain and island is shaken, and people are freaking out so bad they're trying to hide in holes and rocks in the cave. Just the whole plan, right? But again, you think of the famines and the pestilence, whatever, and then here comes a guy, and you could see him going, "Hey, you worship this guy, you'll never have to worry about food again. You'll be able to buy and sell. You'll be a part of the system." And then again, not saying they'll set the Lord, but what if he pitched in this? You'll never get diseases. Don't you remember all those pestilences we just went through?
Yeah.
Oh, and you could see people going, sign me up, sign me up. So in all this, again, I'm not going to say thus saith the Lord, because the text only tells us buying and selling.
Right.
But when you see how the same technology that could be used as a marking device in or on a person's body, either or, the technology is available for both, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you look at this other same technology that could do these other things, you're going like, man, you could see. And then the timing factor. You came through all that for the survivors. And then here a guy says, all you got to do is worship me, and I'll fix everything for you.
Yeah.
Just take,
you
can see the setup.
As horrible as that is, people would take this stuff right now. That's the sad thing.
I will say this. You talk about COVID.
Yeah.
I will say this. I believe the mask issue, I don't believe it's the mark.
Right.
But I think the mask issue is preparing people for the mark.
Yeah.
You know, another prophecy teacher, rightly so, I heard said, you take the word mask, M-A-S-K, drop the S, replace it with R, and what do you got? Mark.
Yeah.
So, but what are people being told with this mask? You have to put this thing on your face, your body, and if you don't do it, what's the punishment? You don't get to buy. You don't get to sell. You can't go to that restaurant, right? No shoot, no service, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service, right? Yeah. But it's conditioning people. If you don't do what this authoritarian regime says with this mask, or we're going to shut you out of the system. Yeah. That, to me, is preparing people for the day when somebody comes up going through all these atrocities and says, you take this mark, right? Or you're going to be shut out of the system. Well, guess what, Chris? I'm going like, if you're going to roll over this easy and play dead on putting on a mask, and we're not even in the 7-year tribulation, just so you can go eat and buy and sell, put yourself in the 7-year tribulation.
That's right.
When your life is really on the line, how many people will line up and just say, give me the chip or whatever it's going to be?
Yeah. And I got one more point before we end. You stated in a few of your studies, there is a power source for technology that they would put on your body, and 2 distinct part of your body.
Yeah.
Let the audience know.
Well, again, gee, what a coinkydink, right? But the studies that they've done, because basically, if you're looking at a chip implant type technology, it's an electronic device. Now, if you're going to have it release some sort of a chemical or something, it needs electricity, it needs power. If it's going to store and receive information, there's a power exchange that has to take place. Yeah. So how are you going to power that thing, right? And because you start putting batteries and stuff in it, then it gets bigger. It's not going to work, not really feasible. But they've already demonstrated with the same technology that they can create a power source by creating an electrical charge, basically, in the human body. And it works. This is their research. It just so happens that there's 2 places in the human body that works the best to create a power source to power these chips. And guess where they happen to be?
Right hand and the forehead.
Back of the hand and in the forehead is the 2 places they've already determined on the human body that just happens to work out the best to create a power if you had to power something like a chip. Yeah.
So as you see, if you know your Bible, if you study the book of Revelation, God is never wrong in his word. And I hope that you take everything that you hear today very seriously and knows that we're marching towards a place that the Bible talked about. It's called a 7-year tribulation. The coming of Christ is soon. And our commission is to preach the gospel. And I hope that for those of you that are listening, that you're not just sitting on your salvation and not telling people about Jesus, because that's our commission. So all of this is information, but we need to use it to glorify God. And with that, Pastor Billy, thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right.
Apocalypse. Genetic apocalypse. Yeah. Genetic apocalypse. Genetic apocalypse. Come on. Genetic apocalypse.
genome cursed, but then we're reborn in this storm. They transform humanity's norm. So we calling all humans refusing transhumans. The only way out is Jesus, please stop refusing the truth. Sin is the root, humanity's proof. While you collaborate with devils, introverting the truth. The rapture is imminent. Thirst trans deliberate, genetic Armageddon, synchronizing your death. The pit of hell is blown wide open as the seal of the Lamb of God terrifies locals. You can't escape the curse, make it worse. You alter carbon, genes totally foreign. Word of God is your final warning. You made an error, engineering chimeras worse than the nightmares from Frankenstein's era. The mirror is like a glimpse in the abyss, a warning of mankind, genetic apocalypse.
Genetic apocalypse. Genetic apocalypse. Genetic apocalypse. Genetic apocalypse.
The rise of the mark of the beast, genetics unleashed. The horror of the new world is ordered in these. He caused small and great, rich and poor. You might be free or caught in bondage, but you won't be ignored. As Apollyon is rising, better cry to the Lord. Let's see demonic hordes impact and leave you in sores. Flashback to the present, vaccines and medicines, a nemesis cocktail. Reverse the genesis. Now you promote the rise of the super soldiers. The Lord is watching as the horror scene is almost over. Didn't you notice the drones flying high over? You were mistaken, the Cold War, it ain't over. GMOs increase disease. Listen, secret cloning, please believe. It's a reality you can't perceive. Imagine humans mixed with animals, creatures and seas. It's a
genetic apocalypse. 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 Genetic apocalypse.
come on.
Jesus is coming back soon.
That's right.
Yeah, be ready. He's coming back. I'm telling you, he's coming back. Yeah, he's coming back. Jesus is coming back. This is a warning.